Welcome to the Short Zone Podcast, where two short guys just talk. I'm your host, Caden Tonight.
And I'm your host, Jim Tonight.
So sit back, relax, grab a snack, and get in the zone.
Hey folks, it's episode 3.
Episode 3 of the Short Zone Podcast.
The Short Zone Podcast, episode 3. Got 2 under our belts now?
Yeah, 2 under our belts, so third one doing today, which will be lots of fun, as usual.
No big glitches on, you do all the editing, pretty much. You've done all the editing.
Yeah, been pretty good. A couple of things here and there. But just the learning, like editing long clips is a bit of work, but no, it's fun.
And the only difference, you do this all the time with your YouTube channel, but now we're doing more multi-camera.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different just because you have multiple angles of the same shot, so you have to sync them and stuff, but it's pretty easy now.
Good. You got it down to a science?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good. So we thought with this episode, we realized that it is a podcast, and most of the time people will be listening to us with just audio, I guess, through Spotify or iTunes. And they may not get a visual.
Yeah, they're not going to get a visual look at, we say we're short, but I don't think many people realize
I know
how short we are, and it's also not just being short that we have our problems.
It's funny whenever if I'm the odd time where you've had to give your information over the phone, and you'll say short or I'm short, and people just think, oh yeah, you're short, and they don't. No, I'm like 3'6", and you have to say it a couple times before it registers to them. Oh, 3'6", yeah, that's pretty short.
Yeah, and we're even short for little people. Me, I'm pretty short for a 15-year-old little person as well.
Well, how tall are you?
3'1".
3 feet, buddy. 3'1".
Yeah, I'm going with 3'1".
So we even go to there's a group in the States called LPA.
Yeah, Little People America.
So we usually we try and go to a convention every year or every 2 years. We kind of alternate. Of course, this year with COVID, it was canceled.
Yep.
But the point was, even among little people, we're short.
Yeah. No, I know. We go there and we're still the short ones. So.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're at a convention for short people and we're still short.
Yeah.
What's the cutoff to be a little person is like, what, 4'10"?
Yeah, 4'10", that's the cutoff.
So we're like well over a foot, almost a foot and a half beyond that.
Yeah. No, I know.
So a lot of this podcast, it's not about being short. That's not the only, but it's our perspective, right? It's our life. And a lot of this podcast is to reflect that different point of view that we live every day. And I think that's a unique perspective. And I think everybody has a unique perspective. So the point with this podcast is to show how different people's lives are, me and you, that people don't even realize, that the average person doesn't even, I said folks again.
I know.
That the average person doesn't even realize. They think, oh yeah, you're short. That's it. And what facet of our life that affects.
Yeah, and I think even with us, short really isn't our problem.
Right, for sure.
Short is at the bottom of our list of problems or physical problems.
But that's the first thing people think of, that, being short must be difficult. I got no problem with being short, really.
Yeah, if I was just short, I'd have no problem with that if I could walk as an average person would, or have the same ability as an average person, but just short. That wouldn't really affect me, really.
Right. No, me too. That's for sure. So it's our hip joints and our spine and those other problems that we have.
Because of our skeletal dysplasia.
Yeah, the dwarfism is caused by a skeletal dysplasia, right?
Yeah, and our specific type has more problems than some, but less problems than others.
Right, we're kind of...
I think we're kind of in the middle.
Right. There's other LPs, or people with dwarfism, that hardly have any medical issues. They're short.
They're just short,
but they can walk for miles, they can play soccer.
Yeah, they can play sports, do whatever. No problem. They don't need a Segway, or no problem. But then there's also the other side that some little people have, and they have severe problems or issues that they can't walk as well as we can, or they can't
it really affects their mobility, and they're confined to a mobility device of some sort. I'm getting closer to that, but I'm not there yet. So
Yeah, you're not there yet, and I think it would be hard for you to get to that point. I think you
yeah, it's mobility is the biggest thing that I struggle with for sure.
definitely.
Well, both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much more. Like even the surgeries, right? That we endure that people may not realize or think about. I've had probably 30 different operations in my life. From most of them were in my childhood, but 30 is a lot.
That's a huge number.
And you're well on your way. You've had a bunch of surgeries.
Yeah, I think I've had like 10 to 12. So definitely not 30, but I mean, I've got quite a few for my age. So.
And big ones like your
Yeah,
neck.
my neck. I mean, well, that was my first orthopedic surgery, right? Was my neck.
Yeah.
And it was so unstable that one wrong push or fall on the playground or just a trip, and my life was on its line. Like, it's
and so for people that wouldn't know, one of the problems with our type of dwarfism is neck instability. So and it's up high in your vertebrae. So the C1 through C5 is where your cervical spine is. And the typical problem with us is between the C1 and C2, we have this odontoid. And so it's like a little nub that goes between the vertebrae, and that little nub holds C1 and C2 together so that they can't slide off, that little nub. That holds the neck gives it stability. It can't slide. It's much like when a newborn baby is born, that odontoid is not developed yet. That's why you have to really support their head all the time. So with me, probably, although it was never checked, because that was back in the 70s, but with you, right away, they noticed that it was gone. But you had even more problems on top of that.
Yeah, I've had many problems with my neck and spine instability. But I think, like, you must have had the same problems. Because on every other aspect, medically, we are like a clone of each other. Like, every problem you have had, I have had. So I definitely think you did have some sort of neck instability.
Neck instability, probably. But it wasn't checked as closely back then. And with you, it was super scary. Like, your neck instability was among the worst cases that they'd seen. Because not only was that odontoid not there, but the bone around the odontoid, the cervical vertebrae, the body themselves, wasn't bone. So it was like...
Yeah, it was all cartilage.
It was all cartilage. So your C-spine, for the longest time, for many years, never turned to bone. It was cartilage. So it left your neck really unstable.
And I think, how fast is that supposed to turn to bone? Like...
Well, I think within months a baby can hold their head up. And
so with me, I mean, I was, 4 when I had my surgery? And it still wasn't even close.
Still wasn't. But the doctor thought, okay, you're old enough now. He said, you're going to school. If you're around other kids, if you get a bump in the playground, even just a little bump, if it's the wrong way, you will break your neck at that. And at that, if you break your neck between the C1, C2, you don't sustain life.
No, it's impossible. And
it affects your breathing.
Yeah, and it's right beside those arteries, those life-sustaining arteries and everything. So yeah, it would have been.
So even though that was a big decision, like the doctor said, look, the surgery is high risk. It's a dangerous surgery, but we can control those risks. And if we don't operate,
the risks are going to be...
Yeah, the risks are there for the rest of your life. So I guess my risks were left, right? So, maybe I had some good luck on my side. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would have been, but I mean, I always think you had to have had it. I mean, I also have a bit of more of a neck. What I have of a neck, I mean, you really don't have much of a neck. I have a little bit of a neck, but...
Well, they stretched it out when you had that halo.
Yeah, when I had that halo on.
You had the pins and the metal on your outside. It was crazy. And then went down to your chest. And it held you like Frankenstein, perfectly straight.
Yeah, and then I had a Minerva neck brace. And then I went till, I think it was like 10. 10 years old, I think, is when I finally could take off a neck brace.
Yeah, you wore a neck brace for a long, long time.
Yeah, and like daily. I'd wear it all day, every day, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah.
No, that was such a sigh of relief was when I was told I don't need that neck brace, because I hated that thing. I mean, it constricted my mobility so much, and I couldn't, if I dropped something, I couldn't look down to see it. Like, it was, I just hated that thing.
And hot.
Yeah, hot, like in the summer. It was
Summertime.
terrible. I mean, given I knew what the alternative was, and I knew I had to keep using this neck brace, but it was not a fun experience.
You took it amazingly well. I'm just, it's amazing how resilient kids are. And I mean, of course it bothered you, and of course there was days you weren't very happy, but I mean, you took it like a trooper. So I didn't have the neck brace, but it was funny, as a kid of the 70s, I had like probably 6 body casts and a back brace at one point, and leg braces. I mean, I felt like the Tin Man. I was like, had stuff strapped to me for most of my childhood.
And through all my surgeries, I've never had a cast.
Never had a cast. That blows my mind. I had like 6 body casts, and you never had a cast.
I've never had a cast, and the only brace I've had was for my neck.
For your neck, but that was a big brace for a long time.
Big brace, and for a long time, but never for any of my legs, nothing.
No. They do it quite different now with the legs, so your surgery is less invasive to fix your knee.
Right, yeah, just 2 8 plates.
Yeah, and those are, the 8 plates, what do they do? How do they work?
Yeah, they're 2, it kind of looks like 2 washers together, and I think they go into, because you have 2 bones that grow.
Your growth plates.
Your growth plates, and one
side goes
faster than the other, causing it to have knock knees. And so I think I'm not very good at explaining how it works. Like, in my head I know how it works, but it goes into
it holds, so your growth plates are together like that, and with us, our bones don't grow even. So one side of the leg would grow faster than the other, which causes our legs to be crooked. So what the doctor do with the 8 plates is they put 8 plates that hold the one side together. So it forces the side that grows too fast to stop growing and lets the other side catch up. So that's kind of how they've massaged your legs to keep straight. With me, they would let them go till they were crooked, let them go, let them go, let them go. I'd end up with like huge knock-kneed, like really crooked legs. They would go in, cut it, cut the leg right off, basically, wedge it, straighten it with a wedge, pin it with rods and pins, and then cast me. And I'd be in a cast for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, so for my 8 plate surgery, same result, and I was walking within 2 weeks from that surgery.
Right.
I mean, given it's still a pretty big surgery.
It is. It's a surgery for sure.
Like, I'm still going under anesthetic. I'm still, like, it's a pretty decent sized surgery, but compared to what you had, it's
the recovery
tiny.
For me, like, I was in a body cast for 6 weeks, and then I'd get the cast off, and then I'd have to learn how to walk again because you had no muscle tone. Although I did learn to kind of almost walk in a body cast. Like, I felt like the gingerbread man. I could like get up there and...
Yeah, what's that scene from Grown Ups?
Yeah.
The guy that gets the arrow through his foot, he's hobbling around yet. That's
just a perspective that most people don't realize. So we just wanted to kind of give some description to, why our perspective is different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
The other thing is, for surgery, on top of, the surgery being a problem, anesthetic is a huge deal with us.
Huge deal with us because, we're so, even for my last surgery, 8 plate, right? That was my last one. They had troubles putting the intubating tube.
The tube, yeah.
The tube, because they couldn't, because my neck is so...
You have an unstable neck, but now it's been straightened and supported with rods, so it doesn't bend normally. So the airway is smaller. So it's really hard for little people usually to have anesthetic and get intubated where they put the tube down to breathe. And now when you have surgery and it's at Children's Hospital, I tend to not worry about that so much because a Children's Hospital is like incredibly experienced with you now. And it's a place where the best of the best work. Where I'm always petrified is if we're on holidays or out somewhere and we happen to have some emergency where you had to have surgery, then I would be panic stricken because they're not aware of the issues that you can have because of your condition with just anesthetic alone.
Yeah, that would be a huge issue with us. And like even for my back surgery, because we just got back from pre-op. And I mean, they had to go in super into detail and understand everything that happens to previous surgeries. They were looking at my records. And I mean, I swear my file at the BC Children's Hospital is taller than me. Like, they pull out a section here, a section there. And I mean, my file's huge. And so, I mean...
Well, no, last time we were there, didn't they say that was volume 5? It was this thick thing.
Yeah, and it was the 5th volume 5.
Yeah, the 5th volume.
But,
And even now as an adult, because I'm out of the children's hospital scene for so long, like I'm not eligible for that. I haven't been forever. So if I have to have surgery now, I'm quite worried about that because, there's little people that die with this anesthetic issue I would say you hear about it every year, every couple years. The emergency, they have to go in and have surgery and something happens with the anesthetic and they don't wake up. So usually that's from going into a hospital that doesn't have experience with little people. And that's when this happens. And it's not all little people, right? So the most common type of little person doesn't really have these issues. So, and lots of times doctors assume that we're that type of little person.
Weren't you misdiagnosed for that type of dwarfism?
I mean, especially in my age, every little person was considered to be achon. And that's the most common type of dwarfism. So they just assume, oh, you're achon, and then they follow, they look at, the medical issues with achon, and they think, okay, this is what you're going to have, bing, bing, bing. Where in fact, we're SED, we're quite different.
We're very different from achons.
Really different, like not even close, really. I mean,
not even in the same ballpark.
No, we have different problems, right?
Yeah. Being misdiagnosed, and I see how it happens, but I'm very surprised because we look fairly different than an achon.
Because we're familiar with it, right?
True.
It makes so much, it's so obvious to us. You think, how could they mess that up? But what article did I just look up the other day? There was something. Oh, with your heart. What did they say with your heart test? So this is new. We didn't.
Yeah, this is just from our pre-op. I had to go through an ECG and an EKG, right?
Yeah, so which one is the one with the gel, where you get like an ultrasound?
Yeah, it's like I think that's an EKG.
So you had both, but that's the one where they found
a dilated aortic root
in your heart. So, I mean, we're used to orthopedic issues and orthopedic problems. We're quite aware of those. And it was like, okay, now what's this? And she said, something that we now have to watch with you. And she said, it's something, okay, we're going to now monitor it every 6 months to make sure it doesn't get bigger. But she told you after that appointment, stay away from sports and...
Yeah, anything that I could have a risk to direct impact to my chest area.
Yeah, like when she found out you did sledge hockey, which you haven't been doing it because of COVID, and it's not contact anyway, but she said, oh, no contact, like we don't want to blow it to your chest.
Yeah. And that's totally new to us. We had no idea.
No idea. So
I never even looked for it.
No, and so I come home, and what does everybody do now? You Google, right? So I was Googling little people with dilated aortic roots, and, I got one article, and it was an old abstract article, because she said, she said, if you Google this, you'll find it's related to a couple other conditions, but she says, you guys don't have those conditions, so it's going to be a different thing. It's not going to be that. So I was looking up little people with this condition, and I found this old medical article at one of the medical sites, one of the universities, and I found it funny because it talked about this achondroplastic dwarf with this dilated aortic root, and I started to read the article, and it showed pictures of the patient, and of course it was classic 70s. It was an old black and white, classic 70s medical imagery. It was an old black and white picture of the little person standing there, and they've got his face blocked out with like a black rectangle.
Sure.
So you didn't recognize him. It was clearly not an achon. It was absolutely not an achon, but the whole article talked about achondroplastic dwarf with this condition. And I don't think it was SED, but I mean, achons have some definite...
Yeah, I mean, every type of little person has different characteristics that are...
And this was clearly not an achon little person. So then that was a medical journal. Like that was something from the 80s. It was quite a few years older, but...
Yeah.
So...
Sure.
And I mean achondroplasia, dwarfism. That's a type of little person. I think I might have said plastic, but I'm not sure where that came from. But it's achondroplasia. But I mean, there's over 200 types of dwarfism. 200 types. So, and everybody assumes that little people, they categorize them. Oh, you're just short. What's the big deal? And for us, it's the shortness is not the problem.
Yeah, if we were just short, I would have no problem with it whatsoever.
If we could run across the field and not be out of wind and sore hips and back,
I'd have, no problem at all. But it's like, I think the biggest problem I have is my hips and lower back. That's my most pain producing area, is where I get the most pain, is my hips and lower back. And I'm going in for surgery July 23rd. And right now I think I've got a 90-degree curve in my back. And I have scoliosis and lordosis. So it goes front to back and side to side, right?
Yeah, it's a scary looking curve when you look at it.
It is. And, for that, when we were at pre-op, when they moved me in that weird position to see how malleable my spine is, how bendable my spine is, when they moved me in that weird position and you saw the x-ray, my spine was significantly less curved.
Yeah, it was significantly better.
So, and I think that kind of gives them an idea of how much correction they can get. And I'm really hoping that will take away some of my pain, or most of my pain, and I think it will. But that is where I have the most problems.
Right.
And you too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, big time. It's back and hips and back and hips.
And it's the most crucial parts that we need. Like, if I had a sore arm or something, I could deal with it, but
exactly.
It's like your back and hips, you can't mess around with those.
And I mean, when you look at our hip x-ray and our back x-ray, and when people say they have back issues, like, they should really look at our x-rays, because...
Yeah, and I mean, there's little people that have way worse than us.
For sure, yeah, no.
But we're still pretty severe.
Yeah, I remember one time I had to get a CT scan because my hips have been an issue for my whole life. And so I just kind of thought, okay, at age 30, I would get them replaced. Like, I thought that was kind of what I thought. And so that was just before you were born, like around 30, 32. I was 32 when you were born. And so I started to go to specialists then. I had not seen a doctor for about 10 or 12 years, maybe 10 years. And so I thought, okay, it's time to get the hips done. They're really killing me. And so I went and saw a specialist here in our hometown. And he looked at my x-rays, and I kind of knew who the doctor was from other people. So it's a smaller community. So he looked at my hips and he says, "Nope, your hips can't be done." He says, they can't be done. And anybody that wants to do your hips, run screaming. And I kind of thought, oh God. So we're a small town doctor. Let me just go and see a real specialist. That was my first impression. So since then, I've seen doctors in New York and Seattle.
The best of the best, pretty much.
And I go to the meeting and they say, oh yeah, we could do your hips. Let's do your hips and let's talk about it. They pull out my x-ray and you can see that blank stare kind of come over their face.
Yeah, their realization that.
Because there's not much of a socket there, and the end of the bone is not shaped in any kind of normal.
Yeah, it's definitely not a normal or average hip. And you also had hardware from previous surgeries as well, right?
Right. So the one doctor, he said, okay, well, the first part of the problem is we have to remove the hardware that was put in when you were a kid to keep your legs straight. So he said, oh, yeah, no problem. We'll get in. That'll be day surgery. We'll take you in and we'll get that hardware out. So I went to the city, Victoria, not that far away, and had surgery.
I remember you, because the one memory I have of that surgery is we were outside and you were on crutches. I don't know why I remember, but I do remember parts of that surgery.
I think you were two or three. You were pretty little. I'm
sure I remember you outside with crutches and I was crawling. I don't know why. And I mean, it could not have happened. I don't know. Well, I've always had that memory.
There's a picture of us in the living room that I keep popping into my mind, and I had just had surgery and we're down on the floor together. Anyway, so I went in there and they said, oh yeah, just day surgery and we'll get your hardware out and that'll be the first stage. And so they put, I had surgery and I was nervous about that because of the anesthetic. And, I made sure the anesthetic, I said, okay, now look, I've got this type of dwarfism. There's all kinds of complications, and actually meeting with them did reassure me. They did go look it up and I felt better. Anyways, had the surgery and they got in there and they tried to remove it, and it was just it had been in there for 32. I probably had my last plates put in when I was in my teens, so maybe 20 years. And they said those plates are so covered, the bone has grown over them, that they couldn't get them out because the bone is crooked, it's bowed, and they're not that big to begin with. So they tried shaving the bone away to get the plates out, and they were scared to shave any more of the bone away because it would shatter they didn't want to shatter the femur. And that's the worry. One doctor, one specialist said, look, if you're not walking at all, maybe it's a surgery worth risking, because
there's no guarantee that you're going to come out there with the ability to walk.
Yeah, he said there's a high probability of failure with hips. So if you're walking at all, I wouldn't risk it. So to this point, I am barely walking. I get around a little bit in the house without a device, but I would say 80% of my walking now I do with the Segway.
Yeah. And I mean, again, thank God for those Segways, because, I mean, yeah, again, right there, 80% of your walking is done with a Segway.
Yeah, even in the house, which is new.
In the house, yeah.
I never used to use anything in the house. And I started, I think we started horsing around with one in the house, and then we just started horsing around more and more, and now there's an indoor one that's just left, and we use it all the time, and I use it most of the time, right?
Yeah. And a step, even for me, like, I use the Segway in the house. I don't always need it, but we always kind of live, a step today is one you might not be able to take
right
tomorrow or something.
A step saved today is a step you can take tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, again, they're just a fantastic device.
They really are. So, so we were just trying to give a visual to people that might be just tuning in with an audio podcast or the audio vision. And our life it's hard to explain sometimes how unique it is until people are with us, right? Like it's something you just don't escape. And like you say, it's not the height that's the problem. Nothing fits, for example. If you can imagine if you're at the end of the day, you're super tired, you just had enough, you just want to come home and relax in your nice chair, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work because no chair in the world fits us unless we
make it or modify it.
And even when we modify something, it's not like it's a perfect fit. It's something that we've made do with, right?
Yeah. Nothing in this world is made for us, so we do have a lot of modifying to do, and a lot of it's just average things that the average person wouldn't think of.
Yeah, they don't think of, and that's what drives me a little bit crazy. Like I think even for you in school can be hard enough. You've got your exams, you've got studying, you've got all your academic worries that every kid has to worry about. Now you have to do that for 8 hours a day in class with furniture that is absolutely not comfortable at all. So you spend half your days kneeling or on stools or with a chair that completely doesn't fit. So that makes you more tired. That makes you more sore. And that's stuff that people just don't think about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who thinks about when they're going to exam how they're going to sit at the desk?
Yeah, nobody.
That never crosses anybody's mind.
And that's like one of the first things that you would do, right? If you're going into a provincial exam.
And I know I'm going to be sitting there for a couple hours. That's the first thing I think about is how am I going to sit there for a couple hours?
What's going to be make it the most tolerable?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, luckily, thank God for you being able to modify everything and teaching me how to modify different things. And I mean, now I've got a chair in every classroom for each semester, which is great.
We just went and bought, then that's the other, we could do a whole episode on that. So for that, in high school, that was a difference from your other school. You were in the same class all day, right? So we had one chair that we had modified.
Yeah.
But now in high school, you're in 4 or 5 different settings, different classrooms throughout the day.
And every classroom's got different tables, got different desks, got different heights, got different... And, and they change every semester, right? So first semester I could have math and I could have a desk such and such height and it doesn't need to move. And then next semester I could have it in socials and their tables are 3 feet tall. So, I mean, you have to always be able to modify everything and think everything ahead. It's funny. I mean, I just find it sometimes funny because the average person, like my friends, they never think of that.
No.
They never think if they're going to go to a restaurant. They never think of what they're going to sit on.
Yeah, or we can tell the difference when there's restaurants that we don't like in our town because the table is up to our eyeballs.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a booth, which is a plus.
Yeah.
But the table's up, yeah, like you said, up to our eyeballs.
So we prefer the other restaurant where we know the table's much lower.
Yeah.
Plug for Gina's.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no doubt. And the funniest thing, the best thing is when you have to ask for a booster seat. That's the peak of embarrassment, is when you go to a restaurant and you don't want to be the one that has to, like, oh, we should go to a different restaurant or something, so you have to ask for a booster seat.
Now
that's the peak.
It's great now that you're at the age where you kind of laugh at that stuff, because it's harder when you're just becoming like, that 10, 11, when you're embarrassed. You don't want to ask for that because no other kid does that. And I totally get it, because now at my age I can't get my wide ass into a booster seat. So
you can get in, but you can't get out.
There's no way
we're
I'm
taking that
enough,
home with we're taking the booster seat home with us.
Yeah.
But
if I get in, I'll never get out of it. But so even with school, right? So to fix that problem, what do? We go to the office store, we buy 4 chairs. And so when you're looking at an office chair, when we're going to buy one for your school, actually, these are the chairs that we're sitting on. These are the chairs. So that's a good example. It's a perfect example. So what did we do? We needed chairs for your school. So we go to the store, we buy 4 chairs, but it's not a matter of buying 4 chairs that fit, because that doesn't exist.
We had to find 4 chairs that are the exact same, high arms, and a modifiable base.
So that's the first thing you got to look at is, I know I'm going to chop these chairs apart as soon as I get them home. So now you have to look at the chair. Okay, what's the best price? Because, everything's money, right? So you try and find a reasonably priced chair that has some of the things that you think you can use. And then it also is, I can see or visualize, okay, I can cut this, I can modify this here, whereas that chair is going to be way too hard to modify. So that's how we buy a chair for our office, right? It's not just like sitting in a chair and think, oh yeah, this one's comfy, but I'll take this one, because that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
So the chair, I think, is a good example, right?
It's a great example. It's a fantastic example. I mean, it's an everyday thing that not anyone would think about. But.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Yeah, or even if I need take the truck or anything in to get an oil change, or if it needs maintenance or anything, and they'll say, "Oh, do you want a loaner vehicle?" No, that won't work.
We'll take one if we can screw into the floor and the pedals, and then
because unless I can take my pedals and weld them to your floor, then I'm not taking any vehicle of yours.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we wanted to sit down and talk about this podcast was.
But and I think, and it's like, there's so many people out there that have unique things that people don't think about. And that's kind of the other idea behind this podcast. I don't just want it to be about us and just about our issues. We have a unique perspective, and I think many people in the world have a unique perspective, and people don't think about it. So, if you're walking through the mall and you see somebody in a wheelchair, I think you've got to think about, people got to realize how much work it took for that person in the wheelchair just to get to the mall.
Yeah.
Just to get dressed, just to get in the vehicle, dig their chair, put their chair in the vehicle, out of the vehicle. And I think that requires a little bit more empathy. In most people are great, but I just, there's everybody has a unique battle. And I think part of this podcast is just kind of shedding a bit of light on differences.
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation, because that is all we want, is just to, I don't think we're looking for sympathy. We don't want people to feel bad or look at us and think,
for sure not, no.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I would never want to be them. It's like, screw that. Like, you think I'm going to sit at home all my life and...
Yeah, no, we have a great life.
Yeah, we have a fantastic life. And I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Me too.
And I mean, all the crappy things that we have to go through, it's made me who I am. It's like, I wouldn't...
Builds our character.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the person I am if I didn't have my surgery at 4 years old, if I didn't have to think about how I'm going to sit at a 3-hour exam. Like, I just wouldn't have the characteristics or the personality that I have now. And that's what we want people to realize is, you don't have to feel bad for us. Don't look at us and feel terrible for what we have to go through or think.
Or anybody who's different.
Yeah, anybody who's different. You don't have to necessarily feel bad for us. You can
just respect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just about giving that person a little bit of respect for the crap that he may have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And some of that's just through education, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just opening your eyes a little bit and understanding.
Because that's the other thing with this podcast. I want it to be more light and fun. I don't want to come down on people because I tell you, in my experience, 95 or higher % of the people that we run into and deal with are absolutely awesome.
They're fantastic.
Always offering help.
And like my core group of buddies are fantastic. They're the first ones to help me get up a curb.
Yep.
Or, if I need an extra chair to sit on.
Yep. No, I was lucky when I grew up. I mean, I always had great friends, great pals, and I see that with your pals. You've got a great group of kids that have grown up with you, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad I have that core friend group I have.
And that's really important, I think, throughout your whole life is just to fit in and be yourself and share life with people around you. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So do we wrap up this one? I don't know if we got off track or if we went too far or...
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think so. I think we did okay. I mean, I think we're at like 45 minutes, which is our longest one yet, I think. But...
Yeah, maybe we went too far because, we don't want to scare people away. This isn't just about surgeries and it just isn't about problems in life. It's more about a different perspective that we have, and we think it's kind of worth sharing because we're proud of it.
Yeah, very proud of it. And, I think we have a lot to offer. So I'm glad that we went into detail and shared our story and where our perspective and where our view on things comes from. Because...
That's what the Short Zone is going to be.
That's right. I mean, as the two hosts of the Short Zone podcast, we have a very different look on things as an average person would. And I'm very glad that we have a platform that we can share that with.
Yeah, no, and it should be fun, and we'll see where it goes from there. But for sure, write in because we're often unaware of what the most common interests or what questions people might have.
Yeah, feel free to email us or DM us on any of our social medias. Mine is at Caden Tonight.
Or I'm at Jim Tonight.
And yeah, feel free to message us, email us, whatever you feel like. Go check out our website, www.theshortzone.com, right?
Yep, it's up now and it's ready to go. And comment below if you're watching us on YouTube.
If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button just to show your support. And hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed.
Because if you are on just an audio Spotify or one of those other ones, be sure to check us out on YouTube if you get the chance, because here we are. This is...
Yeah, the Short Zone as well on YouTube.
Yeah.
So check us out. But that's going to wrap it up for episode 3 of the Short Zone podcast. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Thanks for everything.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's fine.
Thanks for tuning in to the Short Zone podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our YouTube where all these video podcasts are featured. If you like what you heard and would like to continue your support, please check our Patreon. And also make sure to follow all our social media at The Short Zone. My name's Caden Tonight, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.